If you want to know where the real corruption is, let's look at which side of the aisle has been benefiting from this slush fund that we've been giving out with very little accountability. It tends to be left-wing pet projects, left-wing media like NPR and PBS, who always routinely run cover for Democrats while attacking Republicans. It's left-wing advocacy groups and NGOs that are taking our tax dollars and promoting DEI programs and transgender surgeries and girl-powered climate action, whatever that means. These are all left-wing movements that are being funded by our tax dollars. And it raises the question of how successful would the leftist political movement be in America if it weren't for the fact that their whole movement is subsidized by taxpayers? I'd like to start by addressing a few of the concerns that our colleagues have had on the other side of the aisle about the DOGE movement and Elon Musk in particular. And first, they're telling us that what DOGE and Elon Musk are doing by firing federal workers, many of whom aren't showing up to work to begin with, is somehow cruel. And I'd like to say that perhaps what is actually cruel is bankrupting our country by funding a federal workforce that isn't working. What is cruel is driving up inflation by spending more money than our federal government has, harming working class families across the country. What's cruel is consolidating power in an undemocratic administrative state that doesn't answer to anybody, apparently, if they had their way. You know, no federal worker has a right to work for the U.S. government, but our children do have a birthright to inherit a country that isn't bankrupt. And that is what House Republicans and President Trump and Elon Musk are trying to do by cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse from the federal government. What Elon Musk is doing isn't cruelty, it's altruism. And it's the first time anybody has been able to actually right-size our federal budget. And we should be applauding him, regardless of which side of the aisle we sit on. I'd also like to address the idea that Elon Musk and President Trump are somehow corrupt in right-sizing the federal government. If you want to know where the real corruption is, let's look at which side of the aisle has been benefiting from this slush fund that we've been giving out with very little accountability. It tends to be left-wing pet projects, left-wing media like NPR and PBS, who always routinely run cover for Democrats while attacking Republicans. It's left-wing advocacy groups and NGOs that are taking our tax dollars and promoting DEI programs and transgender surgeries and girl-powered climate action, whatever that means. These are all left-wing movements that are being funded by our tax dollars. And it raises the question of how successful would the leftist political movement be in America if it weren't for the fact that their whole movement is subsidized by taxpayers. That is what corruption is. And we're finding out now recently that Stacey Abrams is part of the grift as well. Apparently, the EPA gave $2 billion to a group called Power Forward Communities that was funded in late 2023 and had only reported $100 in total revenue. Power Forward Communities had no business managing a grant that large, of course, but they were appealing for Democrats. The co-chair of Power Forward Communities is Sean Donovan, who previously served as Barack Obama's director of HUD and OMB. And we also know that Stacey Abrams is senior counsel for one of the coalition groups called Renewing America affiliated with this. That is corruption, and that's the waste that we're trying to root out here. They talk a lot about Elon Musk and DOGE and having access to American data. Remember, Biden let 53 unpaid researchers and students have full access to the American people's data at the IRS, and there was no outrage then. We're learning now that the Biden IRS leaked taxpayer information. We were told last year that it was only for, I say only, for 70,000 Americans. We're finding out today it was actually 405,000 Americans. That's the kind of access to data that I'm concerned about, and it's being leaked to a left-wing news outlet that's partially funded by George Soros? These are the questions we should be asking and we should be raising. They like to talk, I think, disingenuously and very hyperbolically about President Trump being a dictator. As they know, Article 2 of the Constitution says that the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America, not in a technocratic, undemocratic, unelected administrative state that they've been propping up for so long. We're a republic, not a European-style technocracy. And that's why our country is the global leader and Europe is not. But for decades, we've watched as this administrative state has metastasized and acts with incredible leftist fervor and has no accountability. What President Trump and Elon Musk are doing is returning our country back to its democratic roots, restoring constitutional order in this country, and that's why we should be supporting them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.